Guys ready? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. This is the June 12th, 2025 Placer County Zoning Administrator and Parcel Review Committee hearing. So welcome to today's hearing. My name is Crystal Jacobson. I'm going to be the hearing officer today. I want to start by providing some information about participation in the hearing process today. So the Planning Commission hearing room here is open to in-person attendance. In-person public comment will be offered during the meeting, so you can comment on items that are on the agenda. When providing public comments, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, and then begin your comments, and you'll have 3 minutes to comment. We also will take public comment for items that are not on the agenda. So I'm going to start with that. So what I'm going to do now is just ask if there's anyone in the room that wants to provide comment on any item that is not listed on today's agenda. You can come to the podium and state your name for the record. Okay. Seeing none, I am now going to convene as a zoning administrator and start with items on the agenda for the zoning administrator hearing. So everyone understands how the hearing process is going to work. I'm going to first go to our staff over here at the left and ask them to provide a report on each item. And then I will ask the applicant or their representative to come to the podium and provide any additional information that they want me to consider. And I might have some questions. After that, I will open the item for public comment, and then I will go back to staff and have any follow-up questions, and then make a decision on the matter. So with that, it is 10:02. We are going to start our 10 o'clock timed item, which is the Griffiths Minor Use Permit. This is PLN 21-00231. This item was actually continued from April 17th zoning administrator hearing, where I actually took tentative action to approve it. I am going to just open this up to staff really quick, see if they want to just provide a brief statement or report on it, and then we will open the hearing back up to see if there's any additional comment. So with that, I'm going to turn to Mr. Dobbs.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Jacobson. Patrick Dobbs of the Planning Services Division. This, as you said, is the Griffiths Minor Use Permit, a request for commercial vehicle storage in a residential zone. The property is located at 8310 Cook Riolo Road, about a quarter mile south of Baseline Road in the unincorporated Roseville area. And it's located within the Dry Creek West Placer Community Plan. The land use designation is rural low-density residential, 1 to 2.3 acre minimums. And the zoning is residential agricultural, combining minimum parcel size of 1 acre. The property is 1.1 acres. It's developed with a single family home, a detached garage, and there's an accessory structure. As you're aware, the owner operates a small excavation and septic installation business. He has this 6-wheel dump truck that he has taken home when it wasn't in operation or at the job site. This project does have a long history. It originally began as a code enforcement complaint in December of 2020. As you mentioned, the item was previously heard by the zoning administrator and continued several times. First back on December 19th, 2024, again on February 20th of this year, and most recently on April 17th. And on April 17th, at that hearing, the zoning administrator did take the tentative action to approve the project and continue the item for final action today. As I mentioned, the area is zoned residential agriculture, and so it's zoned for this type of light intensity use. As you drive around the community, you do see other similar commercial vehicles, tractors, trailers, and trucks that are stored on properties with the same zoning. So the establishment of this use is consistent with the character of the community and will not be detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood. Approval of the use permit is the remedy for the violation. There have not been any new public comments received. The recommended action is categorically exempt from environmental review under the Class 1 exemption for existing facilities. Staff is recommending approval for storage of 1 commercial vehicle. This is the 6-wheel dump truck. There's a picture of it in the staff report. To be stored on the site when it's not in use or being stored on another job site. It must be parked in the rear of the residence as shown on the attached site plan in attachment A. It cannot be parked in this front circular driveway along Crookwheeler Road. And staff's recommendations is based on the findings and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. I'm afraid the applicant wasn't able to be here or call in today, and so that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn to environmental health and see if you have anything new to add from the previous hearing.
Good morning, Ms. Jacobson. Nothing new to add since the last hearing.
Okay, thank you. And engineering and surveying?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendations with no comments or conditions. I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Okay, I understand that the applicant is not here, but I did want to state for the record that the applicant was at the previous hearing and provided testimony then. That was the hearing where I took tentative action to approve it. So what I'm going to do now is just open it up to the public and see if there's anybody in the room that wants to provide public comment on this item. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to take action to approve the Griffiths minor use permit PLN 210-00231. And that is based upon the findings that are listed in today's staff report, including a finding, environmental finding for CEQA finding that the project is categorically exempt from environmental review provision pursuant to provisions sections 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Placer County Code section 18.36.030 of the Placer County Code. And then also, the action is subject to the conditions of approval that are listed in today's staff report. So with that, there were comments that, well, we didn't have anybody speak today. There have been comments that have been provided on this item in previous hearings. And so because we did receive comments, there is a 10-day appeal period before this decision becomes final. So if anyone disagrees with a decision here today or feels that they have been adversely affected, they can file an appeal of this decision. And my decision will be set aside until such time that the appeal can be heard by the Planning Commission. Should an appeal be filed, it will be subject to a filing fee of $752. So that concludes item number 1 on the agenda, and we are gonna move on to, or we can't move on because the next item, we got 2 minutes. We're gonna take a 2-minute pause real quick before I take up item number 2, which is the hall front setback variance. Okay, it is 10:10, so I'm going to move on to item number 2 on today's agenda, which is the hall front setback variance. This is PLN 25-00087, and it's a request from the property owner, Vicky Hall, to approve a variance to allow for construction of an accessory dwelling unit to be located 40 feet from the edge of the front road easement where 50 feet is normally required. So I'm gonna go ahead, just like the last item, I'm gonna turn to staff, and then I will ask the owner or applicant or representative to come forward and provide any additional comments, and then turn it to public comment. So with that, I'm gonna turn to Mr. Dobbs.
Thank you again, Ms. Jacobson. This next item for your consideration is a request by Vicky Hall for a variance to reduce the front setback requirement of 50 feet from the edge of the easement to allow a setback of 40 feet for construction of this accessory dwelling unit. The subject property is located at 2900 Eagle Rock Road in the
Mr.
community.
Dobbs, can you, 1 second. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Could you guys mind just taking that outside if you need to have a conversation, so I can hear the staff? Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the property is located at 2900 Eagle Rock Road in the community of Penryn. The property is approximately 2.7 acres. It's a sloped site. The zoning is residential agricultural, combining minimum building site of 4.6 acres. The property is developed with an existing single-family dwelling. There's accessory structures, there's a garden and orchard, there's kind of a network of fencing around the property. There's also on-site septic system and well. The surrounding properties have similar zoning. They're also developed with low-density rural, single-family residential and agricultural land uses and accessory structures similar to the proposed project. The variance, the proposed variance reduction is proposed to allow construction of a 750 square foot accessory dwelling unit with an attached 308 square foot garage and a 252 square foot covered vehicle entry or a porte-cochere. To be located, again, 40 feet from the edge of the easement where 50 feet is typically required in the residential agricultural zone district. There are a number of site constraints restricting the location of the accessory dwelling unit on this property. As I said, it's legally non-conforming. The 2.7 acre parcel size doesn't conform with the zoning minimum parcel size of 4.6. Eagle Rock Road has a 50-foot wide recorded road easement, but the existing travel way, the pavement, is only approximately 20 feet wide. So while the ADU would encroach into the easement, it still would be located at least 50 feet from the edge of the travel way. So it would allow safe ingress and egress. The proposed location would prevent having to demolish a number of existing improvements, as I said, fences, and it will allow the retention of trees that will partially screen this ADU from the roadway. These constraints, along with the small size of the proposed structure and the minimum departure from the setback standards, result in the least disturbance to the site and surrounding neighborhood and surrounding landscape. The ADU does meet all the other building setbacks and development standards. So this proposed location is the most logical placement of the ADU. It would have the least effect on the well-being of the neighborhood and is the minimum departure from the zoning ordinance. There were no public comments received. The action to approve the project is exempt from CEQA under the Class 3 exemption for new construction or conversion of small structures, as well as the Class 5 minor alterations and land use limitations. Again, staff has concluded that there are special circumstances on the subject property, and because of the strict application of the zoning ordinance has been found to deprive the subject property of the privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and residential agricultural zoning. Staff is recommending approval of the Hall variance. I did have an errata here that I made some mistakes on recommended conditions of approval number 1 and number 3. I don't know what was going on that day, but I had a disconnect between my brain and fingers, and I typed the wrong parcel size, the wrong size of the garage, the wrong size of the porte-cochere. So I've corrected that in this errata that I've provided to you. So again, staff is recommending approval of the variance and errata to reduce the front setback to 40 feet from the edge of the easement for construction of the ADU. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Dobbs. I do have a copy of the errata, so thank you for that. And they're just kind of minor edits in sort of red strike through text, so not a problem there. I do have a question. I'm going to turn to environmental health and engineering, and then I have a question after that. So,
Yes, Environmental Health supports staff's recommendation with no additional comments.
and engineering and surveying.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying support staff's recommendation with no comments or conditions. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. And this might be for you. So in the staff report, Patrick, there's on the second page in your analysis, you talk about the ADU would encroach 10 feet into the existing easement, the road easement. But my understanding is that from further review, it's not in the easement, it's 40 feet from the edge of the easement. So the setback required is 50 feet from the edge of the outside of the easement, right?
Yes,
So the request is not that it encroaches into the easement.
that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to and see if the owner or the applicant or representative is here today and wants to provide any comments on this item. Come on to the podium and state your name for the record.
This was a dream project that we had for a long time because my husband spent time after several brain surgeries and spinal surgeries in a wheelchair. But because my daughter left a bad marriage and came out here and it's difficult to live in Placer County, we went ahead and put in a new well and got plans from Jackson and Sands, and I'm going through that process. And as I kept measuring, it just became very, very hard to square everything in terms of the space. And I thought, I don't know if I need 6 extra feet or 4 extra feet, but I'm going to apply for 10 so that I'm safe. I don't have a laser measurer yet, and the neighbor's fence does encroach into the property, at least where the marker is on the northeast point, at least a foot. So I just, it's just kind of iffy. So that's why I'm applying for this variance.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and ADUs, we are encouraging ADUs in the county because it provides much needed affordable housing. So great, good for you. Okay, so with that, I don't have any questions for you, I don't think. So I'm going to go ahead and have you sit down, and then I'm going to see if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to provide any comment. We didn't receive any written comments on this, but is there anybody in the audience that wishes to provide public comment on the placement of the ADU within the setback? Okay, seeing none, I am going to take action to approve the requested variance here for the hall front setback variance PLN 25-00087. And that is going to be based upon the findings listed in the staff report, including a finding that the proposed project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then it's going to be based upon the conditions of approval as provided today in the errata. So that's dated June 12th, 2025. And it has a few strike-throughs. So it's going to be subject to these conditions that were provided in the errata today.
Administrator Jacobson, would you just provide a little clarification?
Yes? Of what-
Is the variance subject to the recommended conditions of approval incorporating the errata received today?
Correct.
Or just the errata received today?
Sorry about that. It's both, yes. So it would be subject to, thank you for that. It would be subject to the conditions of approval listed in attachment B. And then in addition, it's also subject to the errata provided today that provides some edits to condition 1 and condition 3. Okay, so with that, since we didn't receive any correspondence or public comment today, the only person that has the right to appeal is the applicant. So I presume you're happy with the outcome. So you can actually, go to the front counter and start your building permit process on your ADU. So thank you for being here today. Okay, that concludes item number 2. Item number 3 is 10:20. We've got 1 minute, so we're going to take a 1-minute little pause here before we move on to item number 3. Okay, so it's 10:20. We're going to move on to item number 3 now. This is the Young Design Review, PLN number 25-00060, and this is a request from the applicant Gary Young for approval of a design site review agreement. So with this, I'm going to, same as the last one, I'm going to turn it over to staff, starting with planning staff, Mr. Romero, for a report on the matter.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. The applicant and property owner Gary Young is requesting approval of a design review for the exterior rehabilitation of an existing commercial building at the property located at 855 Nevada Way in unincorporated Auburn. The subject property is zone C2DC, General Commercial Combining Design Scenic Corridor, and has a general plan designation of commercial. The proposed exterior renovation would replace the existing metal siding with exterior-grade wood siding. Staff has not received any comments for this item. Staff recommends that the zoning administrator approve the design review as supported by the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval. The applicant and I are available for questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn to environmental health. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No additional comments from environmental health.
Thank you. And engineering and surveying, anything additional?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendation with no comments or conditions. I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to point out, we haven't received any written comments or correspondence on this item. So what I'm going to do now is turn over to the owner, applicant, or representative to provide any additional comments. If they're here in the room today, they can come up to the podium. State your name for the record.
My name is Savannah Connor, and I'm here representing Gary Young, my father. I don't have anything to add other than it said metal siding that we were replacing. We're replacing the wood that is actually falling apart and actually coming off the building and trying to replace it with better siding that's safe and makes it look better.
Yeah. Can I ask, have you reviewed the conditions of approval? Have those been provided to you?
They have
you?
not been provided to me.
Okay. Okay, I think we need, Mr. Romero?
They were sent to
Gary.
Mr. Gary Young.
To Gary, okay.
Yeah.
He's
Do we-
traveling at the
And
moment.
do we know that he's reviewed those?
Yes.
And is comfortable with them? And does it, is it reflective of what she just mentioned about the metal siding?
Let me take a quick look. 1 second.
We just want to make sure that whatever's in the agreement, I presume he looked at it, so just want to make sure, you're saying it's not metal siding.
Yeah, it's
So we want to
it's-
make sure that the agreement and conditions do not state anything about metal siding, if in fact that's. By the way, the pictures look great.
Thank you.
It's a good improvement, I thought, so.
I
agree.
just want to confirm that it does not state anything
Oh,
regarding
perfect.
metal
Okay.
siding. Yeah.
Good. So anything else that you want to add?
Nope, that is it.
Okay. You can go ahead and sit
Thank
down.
you.
I'll open it up and see if there's anybody in the room that wishes to provide public comment on this matter. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and take action to approve the design review, PLN 25-00060, and that is based upon the findings contained in the staff report, and the analysis in the staff report, and then based upon the designer site review agreement and conditions of approvals contained in attachment B, so subject to those conditions. And then we did not, as I said earlier, we did not receive any correspondence or public comment on this. No one spoke today. So with that, the only person who has a right to appeal is the applicant. I presume you don't. So with that, you can proceed to our front counter and pull a building permit or apply for a building permit if you wish to do so. Okay, I'm going to move on. One thing on that one too, just for the record. I just want to note that in terms of findings, there is a finding that that project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. I don't think I mentioned that. Okay, we are going to move on now to the 10:21 timed item. This one is it's the Johnson front setback variance request, PLN 25-00046. This is a request from the applicant property owner, Russell Johnston, for approval of a variance to allow for construction of a single-family dwelling. And so I am going to go ahead and turn this one over to Mr. Plumley with the Planning Services Division for a report.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. The applicant Russell Johnston requests approval of a variance to allow for the construction of a 400 square foot single-family dwelling unit 30 feet from front property line where a setback of 50 feet is normally required. The 2.7 acre parcel is currently zoned RAB 100, which is residential agriculture combining a minimum lot area of 100,000 square feet, and is located on Diamond Crest Lane in the unincorporated Applegate area. The property is currently undeveloped other than an on-site well and a septic system. The setback requirements for the RAB 100 zone are 50 feet front, 30 feet side and street side, and 30 feet rear. The buildability of the site is constrained due to the steep slope topography combined with dense manzanita brush. The proposed location for the 400 square foot home would allow Mr. Johnston to have a 20-foot buffer between his home and where the property begins its steep slope. The backyard space would allow the property owner to enjoy the same privileges as the neighboring properties. Staff has concluded that there are special circumstances related to the parcel's shape, size, and topography that restrict the available space for constructing a house on the subject parcel. The variance request complies with Placer County Zoning Ordinance Section 17.60.100, which allows relief for unique property constraints such as size, shape, and topography. Staff recommends that the zoning administrator approve the Johnston front setback variance, PLN 25-00046, to allow for construction of a 400 square foot single-family dwelling unit 30 feet from front property line where a setback of 50 feet is normally required, and approve the recommended conditions of approval. The zoning administrator should also find this project to be categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with sections 15303 and 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act and Placer County Code sections 18.36.050, which is Class 3 new construction or conversion of small structures, and 18.36.070, Class 5 minor alterations and land use limitations. And I'm available to answer any questions if you have any.
I did, thank you. I did have one question on the size of the residence. It's pretty small. So is this intended, some folks come in and they'll build, the ADU first and then move on to the primary residence later, at a later time? Is that the intent here? Or is it a module, or what are we?
No, the intent is this to be the main home. The applicant is here if he can
Okay,
address
might be a
that if
question
you'd
for the
like him to,
applicant.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to environmental health. Any comments?
No additional comments.
Thank you. And engineering and surveying, anything to add?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendations with no comments or conditions. I'm
Great.
available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the property owner. It sounds like they're here in the room, and see if you have anything to add or some context about the size of the house, that kind of thing.
I do not. It is a small structure. I'm just trying to do something small, cheap, and simple.
Okay. Okay. Great. So you can go ahead and sit down. I'm going to open it up to the public and see if there's anyone in the room that wishes to provide comment on this. I also want to note we did not receive any written comment or correspondence on this item. Anyone in the room that wishes to provide a comment? Okay. So with that, I'm gonna take action to approve the variance, and that's based upon the findings that are in the staff report, including a finding that the project is found to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, And then there's some findings related to the variance. So it's based on those, and it's also subject to the conditions of approval listed in the staff report. Actually attached to the staff report. And so with an appeal, similar to the item before, since we did not receive any correspondence or public comment, the only person that has the right to appeal is the applicant. I presume you don't wish to do that. And so you're welcome to proceed to our front counter and pull a building permit if you wish to do that. So that concludes item number 4 on the agenda. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, it's 10:31, and item number 5 is timed at 10:31, so we can get started on that one. I understand that this one, I think, there might be a request for a continuance, so I'm going to turn it over to planning staff on that.
That's correct, Ms. Jacobson. Due to an error on the legal notice, we're asking for a continuance on this item to the July 10th hearing so that we can correct legal notice and legal notice the property correctly.
Okay, I just want to ask for the record, is the property owner or applicant representative in the room? And are they're aware? of
They
this?
are aware and they did not attend today.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Do I need to just ask? I don't need to open it up for public comment, or do I? If we're going to continue it.
So you should open it
I
up
do.
for public comment, but the public comment is limited just to the continuance.
Okay. Okay, so I will open the request for a continuance up to public comment. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to provide public comment on the request for continuance? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to take action to continue this item. This is a variance request, PLN 24-00352, and we are going to continue it to a date and time certain, which is July 10th. And I guess I will go ahead and do, we'll just do 10 o'clock. Is that, I'm looking at the, is that? Yeah, okay, 10 o'clock on July 10th. Okay. So the next item is a timed item, and it's not timed until 10:41, so I can't take action on that one until that time. That's for a minor use permit, so I apologize for that, but we're going to have to take a short little break until 10:41. Thank you. I apologize for the delay, folks. Just a couple more minutes. I can't legally open up the next item until the time it starts, which is at 10:41. So just bear with me for a couple more minutes. Okay, and it's not 10:41 on the agenda. I'm sorry, it's 10:40. Perfect, thank you very much. My notes were wrong. Sorry about that. Okay, so it is 10:40, so we can get started on the next item, which is number 6 on the agenda. So this is the, I might say this wrong, but loosely firearms home occupation minor use permit. This is PLN 25-00034, and it's a request from the applicant property owner for approval of a minor use permit to operate a federal firearms dealer as a home occupation under the parameters of the zoning code. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to planning for a report, and then again, we will have an opportunity for the applicant to come up and public comment after that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jacobson. We'd like to consider a request from the applicant property owner, Robert Losi, for approval of a minor use permit to operate a federal firearms dealer as a home occupation. The business would operate at Mr. Losi's home located at 21428 Canyon Way in the unincorporated Weimar area. This property is zoned RAB 100, which is residential agriculture, combining minimum lot area of 100,000 square feet. Mr. Losi's request to operate as a federal firearms dealer is in accordance with section 17.56.120, which is the home occupation section, as well as section 17.58.120 under the minor use permit section of the Placer County Code. The applicant's current business plan is to research and collect guns for personal use by traveling to out-of-state gun shows. The proposal is to operate on a part-time basis depending on gun show schedules. The applicant does not expect customers to come to the home site. However, if the business evolves, the applicant may move the business to an off-site commercial site to conduct customer-based business. Prior to operating as a federal firearms dealer, the permittee must receive approval of a federal firearms license from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, known as the ATF, a firearms dealer permit from the California Department of Justice, and a local firearms dealer license from the Placer County Sheriff's Office. Once the minor use permit is issued, the Placer County Sheriff's Office will conduct an inspection before the issuance of a business license. On May 23rd, 2025, Mr. Losi obtained all the required licenses and provided them to staff. Staff recommends that the zoning administrator approve the Losi minor use permit to operate a federal firearms dealer as a home occupation, as well as approve the recommended conditions approval attached to the staff report. The zoning administrator should also find this project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with sections 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Placer County Code sections 18.36.030, Class 1 exemption for existing facilities, because the proposed project would occur within an existing residence. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. I don't have any questions at this time. I'm going to turn it over to Environmental Health.
Yes, Environmental Health supports staff's recommendation, subject to our conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Okay, and Engineering and Surveying, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendation with the conditions listed in the staff report. I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to turn it over and see if the owner, applicant, or representative is here and wishes to come up to the podium and provide additional comment. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Robert Losi, and I don't have any comments.
Okay. Have you reviewed the conditions of approval?
Yes.
Okay, and you're comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. You can sit down and I'll open it up
Thanks.
to the public. Okay, I did want to point out, I have not seen any public correspondence on this item, so nothing's come in terms of written correspondence. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to provide public comment on this matter? Please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good morning. My name is Tim Thorson, and we have no opposition to it except for the expressed concern of there being a shooting range there or target practice. I'm sure I speak for many of the neighbors that we would not want there to be any firearms going off in our neighborhood. Other than that, we have no opposition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna, I'll probably be asking a question on that, but I'm gonna first see if there's anyone else in the room that wishes to provide public comment on this item. Okay. So seeing none, I'm gonna first, I reviewed the conditions of approval, and I did see a condition regarding that in terms of like weapons testing or firing of firearms on site. So I wanted to turn to staff for a response to that concern from the neighbor, and can you talk about that condition that's in the staff report and maybe read that off and just make sure that that sort of satisfies the concern of the neighbors.
Definitely. Condition 3 on the recommended conditions of approval for the staff report states, the use shall not allow for the use of the subject property for weapons testing or firing by dealer customers. The restriction shall not apply to lawfully discharge of legally owned firearms by the property owner or other persons who reside full-time at the subject property in accordance with the Placer County Code, Article 9.20, weapons, and Article 9.36.030A11, which is the noise ordinance exemption. So yeah, no customers or the property owner would be allowed to test any firearms associated with the business. And as mentioned in the staff report, the applicant is not planning on having customers come to the house.
Right, okay. Okay, good. I also just wanted to add a couple things. So in terms of how that is enforced, we do have a code enforcement division. So if you were to incur issues of that nature, there is a mechanism for you to report, an incident, and we can enforce that. So because it's a condition of approval, they're bound to that, right? And so if there is a problem in the future, it's something that can be, if I were to approve this, it is something that can be enforced. So I just wanted to point that out. Another thing I wanted to point out before I do take action on here is in the staff report, and you may have mentioned this in your report, but I just want to kind of underscore it. These folks do have a federal firearms license, so they've obtained that. I also wanted to point out our Placer County Sheriff has been to this site and inspected it according to the staff report. That is noted in your analysis, and that they have gotten a local firearms dealer license as well. So they've had thorough screening. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. So with that, we have sounds like no additional public comment. I am going to take action to approve. I need to close the public hearing first. Sorry about that. I'm going to close the public hearing, and then I'm going to take action to approve the minor use permit. And it is based upon the findings contained in the staff report, which include a finding that the project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance to Section 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act and Placer County Code Section 18.36.030 of the county code. And then there's a number of findings related to the use permit that are in the staff report as well. And then it's also subject to the conditions of approval that are listed in attachment B of the staff report. And then because we did have one comment, one person in the audience that commented on it, this item does have an appeal period. So there's a 10-day appeal period before this decision becomes final. If anyone disagrees with my decision here today or feels that they have been adversely affected, they can file an appeal of the decision here today, and my decision will be set aside until such time that the appeal can be heard by the Placer County Planning Commission. Should an appeal be filed, it will be subject to a filing fee of $752. So that concludes, thank you for being here, folks. That includes item number 6 on the agenda, and we will be moving on to item number 7. And item number 7 starts at 10:50. I've got 1 minute for that one. Okay, it is 10:50, so I can take up item number 7 on the agenda, which is the Gold Country Wildlife Rescue minor use permit modification. This is PLN 24-00312, and it's a request from the Gold Country Wildlife Rescue Holding LLC for a modification to an existing minor use permit. And it would be to allow for the addition of the rehabilitation of black bears. So kind of an interesting one, I have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to planning for a report on the matter.
Thank you. Good morning, Administrator Jacobson. I'm David Oriero, Senior Planner with Planning Services, and this morning before you is the Gold Country Wildlife Rescue Minor Use Permit Modification, which is a request to allow the addition of black bear cubs at the existing Gold Country Wildlife Rescue Center located at 11340 Mount Vernon Road within the Auburn Bowman Community Plan in the Farm 4.6 acre minimum zoning district. The project is located on 2 parcels, together totaling 15 acres. Surrounding development includes a single-family residence located on 13.8 acres to the north, an irrigated farm on 12 acres to the west, a single-family residence on 10 acres to the south, and a single-family residence on 5 acres to the east. All surrounding properties are within the Farm 4.6 acre minimum zoning district. Prior to establishment of the Gold Country Wildlife Rescue Center on the property, it was occupied by the Auburn Equestrian Center. Existing development on the site includes a covered arena, 2 barns, 9 modular buildings, which house an animal care center, intake building, and educational facilities, a fox enclosure, and a 7,500 square foot bear enclosure constructed to CDFW standards. So some background on the rescue center. It was originally approved by the zoning administrator on May 21st, 2020, allowing for the rehabilitation of orphaned and injured wildlife, including game birds, protected non-game birds, resident small game mammals, fur-bearing and non-game mammals, reptiles, and amphibians. Subsequently, on April 21st, 2022, the zoning administrator approved a 3-year extension of time, extending the time frame for effectuation to May 21st, 2025. Since approval of the extension, the applicant has effectuated the minor use permit with the approval of building permits, grading plans, and construction of required improvements. In October 2022, an addendum to the Memorandum of Understanding between Gold Country Wildlife Rescue and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife was executed to allow black bear cubs at the rescue center, and shortly thereafter, a bear enclosure was constructed without building permits, and the keeping of bear cubs commenced on the property. The basis for the modification request is to reconcile the minor use permit with the species permitted by that MOU. Upon approval of this request, the unpermitted bear enclosure would also be required to be permitted within 12 months. It is important to note that while unpermitted, the bear enclosure was designed to the specifications required by CDFW for the keeping of bears. It also meets all minimum required setbacks for such structures in the farm zoning district. So staff has reviewed the project for consistency with the required findings for the granting of a minor use permit and has determined that the findings can be made. Staff has also reviewed for consistency with the Auburn Bowman Community Plan and General Plan and did not find there to be any policy conflicts. The project has also been reviewed in the context of the California Environmental Quality Act, and staff has concluded that it can be found categorically exempt in accordance with Section 15301, or existing facilities, and 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures, of the CEQA guidelines and their equivalent sections in the Placer County Code, which are sections 18.36030 and 18.36050. And with that, staff recommends that the project be found categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with sections 15301 and 15303 of the CEQA guidelines and sections 1836.030 and 1836.050 of the Placer County Code, and approve the request for the modification to the minor use permit for Gold Country Wildlife Rescue Center to allow for the rehabilitation of black bear cubs on the property. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. We're also joined by Sally Sue Stein, the founder and executive director of the Gold Country Wildlife Rescue Center.
Great. I did have just one question. So did this come into planning by way of code enforcement? Is that, was there like a complaint on site or?
No, there was not. It was, the county works very closely with Gold Country Wildlife Rescue Center, and in discussions with the applicant, she made us aware that the bear cubs were going to be brought on the property.
Understood. Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to turn to environmental health and see if you have anything to add.
Yeah, no additional comments on the requested modification.
Okay. And engineering and surveying, anything to add on this item?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendation with the conditions listed in the staff report. I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna now turn to the applicant, owner representative wishes to come to the podium and provide any additional comments or context.
Context, thank you very much. I don't want anyone to think that Gold Country Wildlife Rescue was trying to pull a fast one here by building this bear enclosure without permits, is what it says in the report. Actually, we had submitted improvement plans. We had site visits by the county because we also have 8 modular classrooms that we're repurposing into our campus. And they said we needed a grading permit for the bear enclosure. They knew the size of it, and they said you only need a building permit if it has a permanent roof, which it doesn't. We have shade structures inside built for the bears and such, and we maybe put up shade cloth. So we proceeded, and we worked with CDFW to build to their standards. So I'm not even sure how it came up, but now we're being told that ag buildings, and I'm asking the question why we're ag, because we aren't, can't be over 5,000 square feet. This structure's 7,500. So they said anything over 5,000, anything over 9 feet tall, this thing's 12 feet tall, or with a permanent roof. But back when we started this, we were just told we only needed the grading permit, which we got.
Yeah.
So I just want to make clear that we have worked very closely with the county, and they bring us animals every day to rehab, so. So do you
Okay.
have any questions for me?
I don't think I know.
Oh, one correction, we can only rehab black bear cubs, which is up to age 2.
Okay,
They look like adults when we just had, ours were just released by CDFW, and one of them was 185 pounds. Up to age 2 is our limit. We don't take in problem adults or even injured adult bears, where we don't have a permit for that.
are they coming from all areas of Placer County, or like, are they?
These were from Sequoia National Park in Yosemite.
Oh, wow, okay.
Though we do have one bear still in residence. In fact, Channel 3 is going to come out today, so everybody watch the news. To see, they've been asking to see the bear enclosure for years, and we've just never had the opportunity. It's been full of bears, and we don't go near it. We don't let anybody near it. Even the county CEO begged me to let him go to the bear cage when he came for a tour, and I said, no. I'm going to now invite him because it's empty on one side, and in one side we have the little bear that came from Coloma with mange. I called him the naked bear. He had no fur. In December, no one even thought he would survive, and he's now 85 pounds and fully furred, but he has to go to a zoo because CDFW veterinarians are concerned he might not grow the undercoat required to survive a harsh winter. So because he's going to a zoo, now I can take people to see that facility, like the news or like Daniel, because we don't. Actually, the zoo would appreciate it if everybody go out there and have lunch with the bear, because the vets told me he's the meanest bear they ever worked on because we raised him as a rehab bear. We don't habituate. He hates us. And now they've got to turn him into a bear that cooperates. So I
Super
wish them luck.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the context. I just want to make sure, did you have questions for staff? Have you reviewed the conditions of approval? You're comfortable?
David, we're
You
just,
got it.
we
Okay.
practically text.
Okay. Okay, great. So why don't
Okay.
you go ahead and sit down,
Yes,
and
I
I'll
will.
see if
Thank
there's
you.
anyone in the public. So I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to provide comment on this item? Okay. So seeing none, I am going to take action. I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to take action to approve this minor use permit modification, PLN 24-00312. And that is based upon the findings included in the staff report, including a finding that the project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then there's also a number of minor use permit findings. And then subject to the conditions of approval that are in attachment B of the staff report. We did not have any folks that provided written comment, and no one here today in the room that provided comment. And so because of that, the only person that has a right to appeal is the applicant. And I presume you don't. You're going to have the news out there today. So if you do choose to appeal, there is an appeal fee, but otherwise you're good to go. And that concludes this item. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is actually at 11 o'clock and we are there. This item is the AT&T Wireless Communications Facility, and the permit number is PLN 24-00403. This is on Horseshoe Bar in Valverde Road. I understand there's been a lot, number one, I just want to point out there's a lot of correspondence that has been received on this matter. I presume there might be folks in the room that were here to speak on this. There's some new developments. It kind of came in late last night, or early this morning on this, and so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Peters with our Planning Services Division. I understand there may be a wish to continue the item, so I'll turn to you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. That's correct. The applicant the original applicant has withdrawn from the project, and a new applicant came on after this item was scheduled for hearing. And so to allow that applicant time to come into the project and also to allow staff and the applicant time to address concerns from the community, staff and the applicant are requesting a continuance to a date and time uncertain for this project.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. So what I'm going to do is turn now to, is anybody in the room representing the applicant?
No.
No, okay. I do have to open this up though and see if there's any folks in the room that wish to comment on the request for the continuance to a date time uncertain. It will likely come back, but there is going to be, it sounds like a new representative that will come on board and some additional time. Really to, we had a lot of comment on this too, so to kind of take comments into consideration. So is there anybody in the room that wishes to comment on the request for continuance? Please come to the podium and state your name for the record. And again, we're commenting on the request for continuance, not the
100%.
merits of the gotcha.
Thank you. Good morning. Joel Leineke, a neighbor of the project. My question is just simply, how will the new date be published? I understand it won't be published to the public again, so I'm just curious how we'll find out about that date.
Yeah, so because it's going to a date time uncertain, that means it needs to be legally noticed again.
Okay.
So the notice that you must have received something
Yes.
in the mail. So those will come out again
Okay,
and
great.
notify the folks in the public that surround the property. It will notify them of the new date and time. So you'll have an opportunity then. And then in the meantime, feel free, if you've got questions, I don't know if you've got Mr. Peters' business card, but
I do, yeah,
okay.
thank you.
So yeah, just be in touch with him. I'm sure he's happy to kind of keep you informed of the progress or process.
Great, that's all I wanted. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to comment on the request for continuance? Okay. So seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing and take action to continue this item. It's PLN 24-00403. I'm going to continue it to a date and time uncertain. So again, if this item comes back before the zoning administrator, legal notices will be sent out to inform the public of the new date and time of the hearing. So thank you all for being here. Apologize for any inconvenience on the matter. It was definitely a kind of a late development. So thank you for being here. Okay, the next item on the agenda does not start until 11:10. And so I have to take a 5-minute break. I apologize for that, but we're going to break for 5 minutes before we start item number 9 on the agenda. for folks that just got in the room, I can't take up the next item until 11:10, so we're just taking a short break. Okay, so it is now 11:10, so I can move on to the 11:10 timed item on the agenda. This is agenda number 9, and this is the Telspan cell tower minor use permit extension of time. So this was an item that had previously been approved, and this is just a request to extend that approval. This is PLN 21-00312-EOT 001. And so, like the other hearings, what I'm going to do is turn it over to staff for a report on the matter, and then I'll open it up to the public. So,
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Nicholas Tagus of 51 Wireless LLC, the applicant on behalf of Telespan Communications, is requesting approval for the first 2-year extension. It's 24 months. This is an extension of time to extend the expiration date to July 21st, 2027. To extend the Telespan cell tower minor use permit. This was originally approved by the zoning administrator on July 21st, 2022. This allowed for the construction of a new 100-foot cellular monopine tower within a 50 by 70, that's a 3,500 square foot fenced leased area on the site. This site is 17.4 acres. The subject property assessor's parcel number 038-170-066-00 is currently zoned farm 4.6 acre minimum. It is located 700 feet east of the intersection of Crater Hill Road and Wise Road in the unincorporated Ophir area. On July 21st, 2022, the zoning administrator approved the Telespan Cell Tower minor use permit, PLN 21-00312, with an original expiration date of July 21st, 2025. An application for the first 2-year extension of time was received April 11th, 2025, prior to the July 21st, 2025 expiration date. The applicant is requesting this extension of time due to the delay in executing the lease. Until the lease is close to execution, Telespan cannot apply for the required building permits and get them approved and have a concrete foundation poured and inspected by the county before July 21st of 2025, the expiration date. If this extension of time is approved, it will establish a new expiration date to July 21st, 2027. The final conditions of approval are attached to the staff report with minor modifications to conditions 1, 12, and 21. The project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with Section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Placer County Code Section 18.36.050, Class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures, because a cell tower is a small structure. The zoning administrator will be required to make the finding to this effect, and I have received no comments regarding this project or extension of time, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for that. I don't have any questions right now, so I'm going to turn to environmental health.
Environmental Health has no comments on the extension of time request.
Great, thank you. And engineering and surveying, anything to add?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendation with the conditions listed in the staff report. I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. I'm going to now turn and see if the applicant or representative is here and wishes to speak on this matter. Yeah, move forward.
Good morning, Administrator. My name is Nick Tagus on behalf of Telespan. One point of correction from the staff report. So there's already a lease executed in place between Telespan and the underlying property owner. What they've been attempting to do for 2 years is gain carriers' interest on leasing space on the tower. Now that Verizon has worked towards executing a lease with Telespan, Telespan is now working towards getting their geotechnical soils foundation report completed. Then they can complete their construction drawings. And then as a condition of approval, begin that first stage of construction, which is pouring that concrete pad, which is why they've requested that additional time to get that first portion done.
Great, I appreciate that. That was actually I was gonna ask about the lease, so thank you for that additional context. Appreciate it.
welcome.
Anything else to add?
No,
Or you've read through the conditions of approval and,
We have.
okay, great.
Thank you.
Take a seat, and then I'll see if anyone else has anything they want to speak about. So any folks in the room that wish to provide public comment, I do want to note we didn't receive any written correspondence on this matter. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to provide public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to take action to approve the extension of time for this use permit, and it's PLN 21-00312-EOT 001. And my approval is based upon the findings contained in the staff report, including a finding that the project is found to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. There's also some findings related to the extension of time request. It's also based upon the conditions of approval that have been modified, and they are contained in attachment B of the staff report. And since we received no written correspondence or anybody in the public that spoke on this item today, the only person who has a right to appeal is the applicant. And I presume you don't. So it sounds like you're moving forward with the project. So thank you for being here today, and that concludes.
Administrator Jacobson?
Yes.
Just real quick, could you clarify, so the approval is subject to the modified conditions of approval,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
That concludes item number 9. And we're going to move on the agenda. So thank you for being here. So we've got a little bit of a break again. This next item isn't until 11:20. So I cannot take that up until 11:20. We've got about a 4-minute break. So if you just bear with us here, and we'll get to the next item on the agenda. Okay, it's 11:20, and the next item on the agenda is timed for 11:20. This is item number 10. It's the Nicotin minor use permit, ELN 24-00331. I did, before I turn to staff, I just wanted to note, we did get a couple of written comments on this one that are in the record. And so I'm sure planning staff will kind of speak to those. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Ms. Pedbury for a report on the matter.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. This is Nicotin minor use permit, planning number 24-00331. The location is 5889 Bell Road, and Yolana Kluka is the applicant. She's requesting a approval for a minor use permit to construct a 2-story residential accessory structure, a shop garage combination, on the parcel prior to establishing a primary dwelling. The building footprint is 90 feet by 60 feet with a total floor area of 7,800 square feet. The first floor will have 3,600 square foot shop, storing machinery, tractors, and all-terrain vehicles. The remaining 1,800 square feet will be utilized for a garage with storage. The second floor will be a 2,400 square foot, total of 2,400 square feet, and will be utilized for additional storage for hay, animal feed, and garden supplies. The subject property, assessors parcel number 026-410-043-000, comprises approximately 5.22 acres, is currently zoned farm 4.6 acre minimum, and again is located at 5889 Bell Road in the unincorporated Auburn area. The subject property is currently undeveloped with many rock outcroppings, hilly terrain, and oak woodland. There is an existing culverted drainage system with a setback of 50 feet and a 60-foot public utility easement for PG&E. The storage unit will not encroach any of those easements. In reviewing the materials presented in the minor use permit application and the physical attributes of the project site, staff has determined that the findings required to grant a minor use permit can be made and supports the requested minor use permit. Staff recommends that zoning administrator approve the Nicotin minor use permit, planning number 24-00331, to allow for construction of a residential accessory structure, shop garage, on the subject property prior to establishing a primary dwelling on the site. Subject to making the necessary findings and approving the recommended conditions of approval, the proposed residential accessory structure is consistent with section 17.02.030C, policies and requirements of the Placer County General Plan. The proposed project is categorically exempt from environmental review in accordance with sections 15303 and 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Placer County Code, sections 18.36.050. Class 3, new construction or conversion of small structures, and 18.36.070, Class 5, minor alterations in land use limitations, because the proposed construction of a shop garage is an exempt project under Class 3 and would not result in the creation of any new parcel under Class 5. The county received 2 comments from 2 different neighboring property owners with concerns regarding the size of the shop, location of the shop, and what uses the 7,800 square foot shop garage would be used for. They're also discussed a commercial business being ran out of the accessory structure. So that was a big concern for both neighboring parcel people that submitted comments. So I am available for any comments or questions you may have.
I do have a question. So I'm just curious, have you seen, and this may be a question for the applicant, but have you seen any plans for construction of the residential dwelling?
Not at this time.
So there's been no communication about the timing of construction of a dwelling on site?
Correct. They want to, but there's no timing they've given me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to move on to environmental health and see if you have anything to add.
Environmental Health supports staff's recommendation, subject to our conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Great, thank you. And engineering and surveying, anything further to add?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports for staff's recommendations with no comments or conditions. I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm now going to open this up and ask if the applicant, the owner, or the applicant representative is here today to come up to the podium.
Hello,
Good morning. Can you state
Good
your name
morning.
for the record?
Ella Nicotin. I'm the property owner
Okay, okay,
with my
great.
husband, Daniel Nicotin.
Okay, so I just want to first ask you if you have anything to add that you want to,
Yes, so why we haven't done the primary residence yet? So we have 3 parcels that are located. All 3 are kind of conjoined. So we do have a primary residence on one of the parcels. The other 2 parcels, we want to do that shop to be able to store for animals, for tractors and stuff like that. So we don't need a primary residence right now because we have one that's literally right adjacent to our property.
so contiguous, you have
Yes.
property that's contiguous
We have, yes, we have
With a
3
si-
different parcels.
with a single-family residence on that property?
Yes.
Okay,
So that's why the primary residence that is going to be down the future, we do plan to put it in there.
was that conveyed to staff during, like, was that, I didn't see that in the materials I have. Was that provided in
That-
any of your application materials?
So there's 2 different, they're all different APN numbers.
Right, but I mean, the sort of, I mean, it's the, what you just mentioned to me, that you
Mhm.
have adjoining parcels was, so under the same ownership, was that
Yes.
described in your
Yes.
application?
I'm not sure if we put it in the application, but we did let them know that that's why we're going with the shop right now, not the primary residence.
Okay,
Because we want to start getting animals, stuff going in the back of that property.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why we're starting this project.
okay. So I don't know if you've seen the comments that have been, or if
I
you've
have
talked
not.
to your neighbors. There's some concern, I mean, it is a really large structure that you're proposing to build
Yes,
for residents.
which we understand, but it has nothing to do with commercial at all.
Uh-huh. Can you speak a little bit about what the intent is?
Yeah,
I
so
mean-
it's gonna be pretty much to keep all our supplies, the lawnmowers, kind of our toys, the side-by-sides and stuff like that. Pretty much that's gonna be one of the main areas where we're gonna be keep storing all that. So we do need kind of a bigger shop for it. With the second story that we have going, that's where we're trying to be keeping all the food supplies and stuff. We're trying to keep them off the ground because we do have a lot of like animals and stuff around there. So that's what we're doing for the second story of the shop.
So do you have like a working farm or ranch? Like, is
We-
that part of your property holdings?
So we
or-
have we don't have it as of now, but that's what our plan is. We're starting off with this to be able to get the sheep, the horses and stuff that we want to keep there.
Okay. Okay. And you've seen the conditions of approval? Have you been provided a set of the conditions of approval by staff?
No, we haven't.
Okay, I'll just turn to staff. Have you provided a set of conditions of approval to the
I
applicants?
did not. I leave it up to admin staff, but I can send those over.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and have you take a seat.
Okay.
And then I'm going to open it up for comment. So is there anyone in the room that wishes to provide public comment on this matter? And if you provided written comment, you can still get up and provide oral comment as well. So it's, yeah, why don't you come on up to the podium and state your name for the record?
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ron Patich. My wife and I have the property that is the nearest to this building that's going up. We share a property line with Kluka Nikitin. And when I saw the size of the building, my initial reaction was concern about what it's going to do to the sight line that we have from our property. We've lived on the property 40 years, beautiful views. The placement of the home is so far to the west that we now believe that it's going to be a minimum impact to our sight line, and so it's okay with us. We did have some initial concerns about the potential for commercial use, but I understand that that is not part of the application. And I should hasten to add that we've had amicable relations to both Nikitin and Kluka. And so they are neighbors, they'll be our closest neighbors. And I'm happy to participate in a way that may allow them to put this up. And one added comment that we'd make is that there are a lot of quite attractive mature oak trees, and we hope to the extent possible that they will preserve as many of those as possible for the ambiance that they provide. And a nicer view looking out from our property.
Okay.
Let me just take a quick look and see if I've... No, I have nothing else.
Okay, and I just want to clarify, you mentioned the construction of a home. It's not, what's being proposed is more of a shop-like structure. We call it like an accessory use prior to construction of a residence. So it doesn't sound like they're proposing construction of a residence at this time. But my understanding is what they are proposing does meet Placer County Code's setback standards and height standards. But it's not just, it's not a residence. What they're proposing is
Right.
a shop of sorts.
If I said residence, I misspoke. No, I know it's a shop
Okay.
and storage.
Okay.
In fact, I spoke with Ms. Pedri yesterday at some length, and I understand the application and the use of the building. And I did speak with Alex Kluka the other day as well, and he clarified it's for tractors, mowers, motorcycles, and it'd be a nice use for that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your comments. Why don't you take a seat, and I'll see if there's anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment on this matter today. Yeah, come on up to, there, it looks like there's a couple. So yeah, one of you come on up and state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Ray Urakaki, neighbor on Bell Road, and my concern is the same thing as the large shop area, and then, 7,800 feet combined, pretty big shop area, and I thought, well, maybe it's gonna be some kind of a commercial thing or what, more traffic, and that's my concern, noise and traffic, and, everything's just huge over there, so that was what I was concerned about.
Okay.
I did email
Yep,
a
I
comment on
see
there.
your, yep,
Yeah.
I see your comment. Thank you for that. Anything else that you want to add?
No, that's about it, Ron. I had the same feeling as Mr. Page, so same feelings about the place. So.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I appreciate your comments. Thank
Okay,
you
thank
very
you.
much. Okay. Yeah, come on up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good morning, Pat Ferreira, neighbor on Bell Road. I'm not close enough to be notified of so I found out about it a little bit late. You answered some of that about a secondary dwelling that's not going in yet or a primary residence isn't going to be on the property. Is there is there a septic intended for this shop building? And is there room for it with the setbacks with the irrigation ditches and the creeks and the other property lines? The awful big building to
Yeah, let's
not have a bathroom. Pardon me?
Yeah, no, just direct
Oh,
your
I'm sorry.
comments to me, and then I'll
Okay.
make sure I get them addressed by staff.
And then, in the past, there's been some large semi-truck and trailers parked there, which that building would accommodate. And I'm wondering if later on they'll be back for a variance for a different use for the building. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments and questions. Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment on the matter? Yeah, come on up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Juliana Kluka. I'm
Yes.
actually the applicant.
Oh, hi.
Okay, yes. So there's nobody's doing nothing commercial. They're the semi trucks that are there. They belong to us, but they have nothing to do with the property. We have in South Sac that we hold the trucking. This has nothing to do with commercial. I come from a family of 11, so we have a lot of kids. And we have boats and things like that. Our campers are right now burning in the sun that are just going to be stored there for things like that. So it has nothing to do with commercial at all.
Okay, so you just mentioned a commercial truck, though. Is the parked there?
Which is going to be moved. It's just they're just sitting there for right now because our business kind of downsized. So we're in the process of actually selling those trucks.
Okay, so there's
That's
no
it.
intention of using this facility for commercial storage?
Zero intention.
Or operation, okay?
No, nothing
So-
in that sense at all.
Okay, so understanding that, based on the concern we've heard, if we were to add a condition of that sort to the
That's fine.
conditions of approval, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You could put no commercial on. Like I said, we have zero intentions of using it for commercial at all.
Okay,
So,
well, that's good
yeah.
context.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Uh-huh. Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I do want to ask staff some questions real quick. I wanted, there was a question about septic. So it sounds like there's no septic proposed on site at this time. Is that correct?
There is an existing approved septic system, and the site does have an approved minimum usable sewage disposal area. So that
Okay.
septic has already been installed, so the proposed bathroom would connect to that existing septic
So
system.
there is a proposed bathroom in this facility.
No, not for this building itself. It has a building envelope to the, I would say it's the north. And there is a approved septic in that building envelope.
Okay, but the proposed building, I'm looking at the
Has no
plans.
septic
There's
proposed.
nothing that shows any
Nope, no
water or
bathroom.
septic. Okay.
Mm-mm. Also, for any commercial business to be conducted in farm zoning, they would have to apply for a minor use permit.
Okay. And then just to be clear, there a question about, setbacks, and I know I stated this. I didn't see, it looked like it meets setbacks.
Yes.
Okay. And height.
Yes.
Okay. So anything in the future, if these folks were to come in with another building on site and it didn't meet setbacks, they would need to, they could request a variance, right? So, but I know there's a question about future, future entitlements. So what I'm going to do on this one is I would like, I'm actually going to continue this one. So I close the public hearing. I'm going to take action to continue it because there's a couple little things in it that I would like staff to focus on and kind of clean up a little bit before coming back and having me take action on it. And so I'm going to continue it. I can continue it to a date certain. And I'm looking at planning if that is okay. I'm thinking the July hearing, which is July, is it the 10th? I'm going to continue this one to July 10th at 10 o'clock or thereafter. So it'll be on that July 10th agenda. And what I would like to do is for staff to work on augmenting the findings related to the contiguous parcel ownership and a finding that the owners have parcels that are contiguous with existing single-family residences. And so I want some additional language around that. I also want, in the conditions of approval, I want to add 2 conditions. I'm going to read them into the record, my thoughts on them, but they can be certainly refined by staff. So the first one, I would like that the structure, I would like a condition framed up to state something to the effect of the structure is not to be used for commercial use, storage, or use unless otherwise allowed to do so with the appropriate land use entitlement permits. I would also like a condition that the structure is not to be used for residential habitation unless permitted as such with issuance of a building permit for a residential structure. So I would like those 2 conditions added, but I do want you to take some time, another month to get that sorted out. And then I think that's it. I do one quick question on the septic. What was the date of that septic? They came in for a permit.
We're kind of looking into that right now since there is some confusion with the parcel lot line adjustment that occurred, but my notes showed that it was installed in 2024.
Okay, so another thing I would like is when coming back in July, I would like some context around the septic system and whether or not this structure, if there's any intention for plumbing or septic, a bathroom of sorts, that kind of thing in the structure. I don't see any plan, it's just the site plan is all I see. But perhaps you could frame up some additional context or language around that as well. Okay. So, sorry for the delay, but we are going to come back in July, again, July 10th, anytime after 10 o'clock. This item will be agendized. There will not be additional notices that go out because I have continued it to a date and time certain. So for the folks that are in the room that want to join the July meeting, just know it will be on that meeting for sure. You will not get another notice in the mail. So I thank you for your participation today, and that concludes that item on the agenda. Okay, and with that, I am going to adjourn as the zoning administrator and reconvene as the parcel review committee chairperson. And so we're kind of closing out the zoning administrator items and moving on. And and I would like to begin by asking if we're going to start with the consent agenda that has been posted for the parcel review committee. So I want to ask if anyone, there's only one item on the consent. Is there anybody here that would like to pull the item off the consent agenda? Okay. So anything from anybody? No staff? We're all okay. Okay. So seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and take action to approve the consent agenda with a one item, which is the Bradwell minor boundary line adjustment, PLN 24-00333. And that is based on a finding that the proposed project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. That concludes the consent agenda item. So that was the 11:30 item on the agenda. I'm now going to move through the agenda to the next item. I don't know if yep, I've got time. Okay, the next item is item number 12. It's the Leal additional building site, PLN 24-00412. So this is item number 12 on the agenda as the parcel review committee. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn to planning staff for a report on the matter, and then I'll open it up to the applicant, property owner, representative, and then to other folks that wish to speak on the matter. And I just did want to point out, we didn't receive any comments on this item, so I don't have any written correspondence on this matter. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to planning.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. We'd like to consider a request from the applicant and property owner, Don Leal, for approval of an additional building site to construct an additional primary single-family dwelling in accordance with Placer County Code Section 17.56.230, the single-family dwellings additional building site section. The proposed additional single-family dwelling will be 2,300 square feet with a 900 square foot detached garage accessed by a new 440-foot driveway that branches off the existing driveway connecting to Christian Valley Road, which is a county-maintained road. Section 17.56.230, single-family dwellings additional building site of the Placer County Code allows for an additional primary single-family dwelling with the granting of an additional building site entitlement on properties consisting of at least twice the minimum lot area required by the applicable zone district. The subject property is more than 8 times over the 100,000 square foot minimum lot area for the current zoning. The proposed project would also not cause the parcel to exceed the maximum site coverage of 35% and would still be consistent with the general plan land use designation, rural residential, 2.3 to 4.6 acre minimum. So staff recommends that the parcel review committee chair approve the Leal additional building site based on the findings in the staff report and approve the recommended conditions of approval in attachment B. Staff also recommends that the parcel review committee chair make a finding of categorical exemption in accordance with sections 18.36.050, which is class 3 new construction or conversion of small structures of the Placer County Code, because the construction of a new single-family dwelling unit in a zone which allows residential uses is an exempt project under class 3. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn to environmental health. Do you have anything to add on this one?
Nothing to add. We support staff's recommendations subject to the conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Great, thank you. And engineering and surveying, anything to add?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendation with the conditions listed in the staff report. I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Okay, I don't have any questions at this time, so what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and open it up to the property owner, applicant, or representative on this one to come up to the podium.
Hello, my name is Don Leal, property owner, and I'm familiar with all the conditions of approval, and we're good with that. I have only one question in here. It states that there should be no financing on a portion of the property, but if needed, which we're not sure yet, can we finance against the entire property?
That's a great question. I'm going to turn to staff on that one. I don't know that I have an answer for that at this time.
I don't know if I have an answer either. That's something that I could dig into, though.
At this time, we don't intend to do that, but when I read it, I just wanted to be clear on what was allowed or not allowed, so.
Yeah, and if we, I don't know that we can get an answer for you today. It might take a little bit.
Yeah, you can email me, I guess, is that like
So
through-
let me ask you this. Is this something that you would want us to hold off on making a decision today on this matter until you had that answered? Or is it
I
is
just
it an answer
ultimately
that
would
can-
like to know it's not urgent.
Okay. So
You know,
okay.
we just would need to know if it is an option, can we exercise it? But we don't
Gotcha.
intend to exercise it right away anyhow.
Okay. Okay. So so you're not concerned about my moving forward with this hearing today? Okay.
Not at this time.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
Nope, that's all I got.
Okay, so we will make sure that if this is approved, that answer, well, we'll get you that answer either way. So, okay, so why don't you take a seat and I'll
Thank
see
you.
if there's, yeah. Okay, is there anyone else in the room that wishes to provide public comment on this matter, the Lee additional building site item? Okay, seeing none. Again, we didn't receive any public correspondence. There's no one here today that provided public comment on it. It is a beautiful piece of property, by the way. I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to take action to approve it. I'm going to have you work with staff to get your question answered. I'm sorry we can't answer it on the fly. Sometimes that happens. But I'm sure we can get an answer to you on that. But I'm going to take action to approve the additional building site PLN 24-00413. And that is going to be based upon the findings contained in the staff report, including a finding that the project is found to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, along with another set of findings related to the additional building site, and that it is subject to the conditions of approval, which is in attachment B. So there's a list of conditions. Sounds like you've got them. You're okay with those. So the project is subject to those conditions. Because we didn't have anybody provide written comment or speak today, the only person that has the right to appeal is the applicant. And I don't think you want to appeal. So with that, you're free to go. You could go to the counter and pull a permit if you wanted to. But that concludes item number 12 on the agenda. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks for your patience waiting as we got through the agenda.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next item, item number 13 on our agenda, was scheduled at 11:40, so we're good to go. It's 11:49. So, okay, this item is item number 13. It's the Brown Minor Land Division modification. So this is a previously approved minor land division. It's PLN 24-00357 and an extension of time, which is PLN 18-00272-EOT001. So my understanding, there's been a little bit of a change to the property lines on this, and so they're asking for that modification along with an extension of time. I'm going to go ahead. I did want to mention I have not received any public written correspondence on this matter, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to planning staff for a report.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson.
The applicant and property owner, Matthew Brown, is requesting approval of a modification to a previously approved minor land division, PLN 18-00272, adjusting the previously approved boundary lines resulting in parcel 1, 4.04 acres, parcel 2, 11.2 acres, parcel 3, 2.3 acres, and parcel 4, 4.3 acres, and a second 3-year extension of time for the previously approved tentative parcel map to establish a new expiration date of May 16, 2028, at the property located at 2311 Rippey Road in the unincorporated Penryn area. The subject property totals 21.85 acres and is zoned RAB 100 PD equals 1, residential agricultural combining minimum lot area of 100,000 square feet, combining planned residential development 1 dwelling unit per acre. Proposed parcel 2 of the property is currently developed with an existing single-family residence and an existing road extending from said residence towards Rippey Road. Proposed parcels 1, 3, and 4 are currently undeveloped. On May 16, 2019, the zoning administrator approved PLN 18-00272 and adopted a negative declaration for the project State Clearinghouse number 2019-039145. The tentative parcel map was originally conditioned to expire on May 16, 2022. On June 16, 2022, the Parcel Review Committee approved a 3-year extension of time for the tentative parcel map, establishing May 16, 2025 as the new expiration date. The applicant is requesting a second 3-year extension of time to establish May 16, 2028 as the new expiration date. The surrounding parcels are zoned RAB 100 and RS, that is residential single family. The majority of the surrounding parcels are developed with single family residences and accessory structures and a church just north of the subject property. The applicant is proposing modifying the previously approved parcel map to create uniform and more marketable parcels, as well as to remove the need of a large hammerhead turnaround by granting access to proposed parcels 3 and 4 through a shared driveway similar to those found in the area. The conditions of approval were revised to incorporate the newly proposed boundary lines and site improvements. The conditions also were also revised to comply with the applicable standards, which resulted in a renumbering of the conditions. A mitigating negative declaration, Steakhouse Clearinghouse number 2019-039145, was prepared for the previously approved minor land division. The proposal to move the boundary lines, remove a driveway, and extend the map's expiration date did not result in a major revision to the existing MND, and therefore a subsequent MND was not required. Public notices were sent to property owners within a 300-foot radius or further to provide notice to a minimum of 30 property owners. Staff has not received any comments at this time. Staff recommends that the Parcel Review Committee Chair approve the minor land division modification and extension of time PLN 24-00357 and PLN 18-00272 EOT 001 as supported by the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval. The Parcel Review Committee Chair will also consider a finding that the proposed mitigation and 36 months extension of time for the tentative parcel map is within the scope of the previously adopted mitigating negative declaration pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15168, and no additional environmental review is triggered pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15162-15164. The applicant and I are available for comment.
Great, thank you. Okay, I don't have any questions right now, so I'm gonna move on to environmental health. Anything to add?
Environmental Health supports staff's recommendation, subject to our conditions of approval in the staff report.
Great, thank you. And engineering and surveying, anything to add?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Engineering and surveying supports staff's recommendation with the conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you very much. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to open it up to the property owner, applicant, or representative to come to the podium and provide your name for the record and any additional information you want to add. Hi.
Hi, Matthew Brown, my wife Callie Brown, property owners and developers part-time. I have received the amended conditions of approval and have reviewed them and accept them, don't have any questions. Thanks for considering the modifications at all the departments to kind of help me figure out how we could conform to the map and make it work for us. We are the end users of the property. We built our house there. It's where we live. Which was most of the reason why we wanted to, when we bought the property, we bought it with an existing parcel map, right? And so there was no defined building sites necessarily. And once we chose where to build our house, kind of the Hammerhead turnaround on Rippey Road was there to meet all the requirements. And it just doesn't make sense for us, so.
Yeah, so once you actually are living there, you realize you want to lay it out a little different.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And then as far as the one boundary line adjustment, well, two actually, one of the parcels was 8 acres. And unfortunately, it's just not very marketable with no irrigation water.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, understood. Well, thank you for that. I don't have any questions, so you can take a seat.
Sounds good, thank you.
Great. Okay, anyone else in the room that wishes to provide comment on this matter? Okay, seeing none. And I just want to point out again that we didn't receive any written correspondence and no one's in the room that has provided comment. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to take action to approve the Brown Minor Land Division modification, PLN 24-00357, and extension of time, PLN 18-00272-EOT 001. And that is going to be based upon the findings contained in the staff report, as well as a finding that the proposed modification and 36-month extension of time is within the scope of the previously adopted mitigated negative declaration, state clearinghouse number 2019-039145. Did I get that number right? I think I did. All right, I just want to check. Yep, I got it right. Pursuant to CEQA guidelines, sections 15168, and that no additional environmental review is triggered pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15162 through 15164. So I'm going to add that finding to the record. And then it's also subject to the conditions of approval that have been modified for this modification. So you're going to see the conditions of approval. Sounds like the applicant has got them. They're in red text. And so again, it's subject to the conditions of approval contained in attachment B of the staff report. So that concludes that item. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for the wait.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yep, have a good one. Oh, nope, wait, one other thing. I forgot to mention that since we didn't have anyone that spoke on this item or provided written comment, we can waive the appeal period. So normally there's an appeal period if someone provides comment, and so you are free to go and free to just move forward with finaling your map.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so that concludes all items on the agenda, and so unless I'm missing anything, okay, that concludes it. And I am now going to adjourn as the Parcel Review Committee and finish the hearing for today. So concludes the June 12th, 2025 Zoning Administrator and Parcel Review Committee hearing. Thank you all for coming.